or not, that's guaranteed by the First Amendment.
We have this growing incentives to self-censor because of plain fear.
If I see him who did the cartoon about Muhammad, if I see him, I kill him.
They were not asking for my respect. They were asking for my submission.
The impulse to censor has been there since the beginning of time.
If I changed the ending and made it more remorseful, and I remember that word, if I made the ending more remorseful, then he would give it a rating.
Homosexuality is not in line with our culture. It's not good for us.
After I said I would not be changing the ending, the film was banned.
What is appropriate? The real question is, who decides what is appropriate?
We've learned from our own mistakes that allowing censorship only allows more censorship.
Once you gave the government the power to decide that their speech could be banned, you also gave the government the power to decide that your speech could be banned. Either everybody has all these rights or nobody does.
If we can reduce the number of words available for minds to formulate things, it's much easier then to institute the orthodoxies that lie at the heart of our totalitarian program.
That's why there's no revolution, because nobody knows they're oppressed. What is a democracy? Like, what is human rights? Those are like very basic things that even children know in the West. North Koreans as adults, they've never heard such a thing.
It's the cornerstone of everything. Ideas and thoughts and points of view.
There were about 300 books that were pulled off the shelves within the first month of school.
They think that they can somehow solve the world by limiting what knowledge people have.
It was always an issue of control. Always has been and still is.
Oh, it's amazing. She's incredible. All right, so who wants to be tracked by the federal government? No takers? Oh, you do? You freaky deaky mole? Did you sneak in here? Are you AOC in a little man wig? I like it. It's kind of kinky. You can be tracked. You can be hacked. You can have your data thieved by the federal government. There's so much you can do. And, don't you hate when people say, well, I've done nothing wrong, so I have nothing to worry about? That's not who the Fourth Amendment was written for. But there is a man who has been on the forefront of digital privacy. And he spent 30 years in the Middle East, in Central Asia, and Eastern Europe, figuring out how to make digital systems secure. And we need this in our country more than ever. We need a proliferation of choices that protect us, our data, and everything is on our phone, and everything is up for grabs when the government and her cohorts feel like they can put their sticky little fingers in our iPhones. So let's hear from David Sinclair. He is the founder and CEO of 4Freedom Mobile. He's going to win this zero-sum game. Let's hear it for David Sinclair. Woo, there he is. Hi, David.
Yeah. Why don't people understand my intention?
So, thank you very much, Lisa, for the introduction. I bet most of you are wondering, who in the heck is this guy? And why should we listen to him? So just a quick introduction. I've spent most of the last 30 years working in countries with some of the most autocratic regimes in the world. Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Myanmar. And I've seen firsthand how governments can collude with tech companies and mobile operators to leverage their abilities to control and manipulate populations. So, since America's founding, we've always had to defend our freedom of speech. It used to be it was about a right to say something unpopular in a crowded room. Then it was about our right to say certain things on the internet. We've seen over the last few years, news story after news story about how the FBI is colluding with tech companies to limit people's access to information, limit your ability to share information that the government doesn't like. But that's not the end of it. The next phase of defending our right to freedom of speech is actually going to be defending our right to be able to speak to the people we want to talk to about the topics we want to discuss on our very own phones. You probably didn't know it, but already today there exists a list of restricted words. If you send an SMS that includes a restricted word, the mobile operator has the right to block that SMS and not deliver it. And it's only a matter of time before that list of restricted words grows and before we start getting a list of restricted people that we're not allowed to communicate with or restricted organizations we're not allowed to communicate with. And as we saw during COVID, governments around the world and here in the US use people's cell phone data to track their movements, to control. Are they following the COVID guidelines? Are they social distancing? Are they going places they shouldn't go? In Australia, they were saying, are they going out of their homes? They weren't even allowed to get out of their homes there. And that, by the way, is a democracy, right? And then as we saw in Canada with the Canadian truckers, a liberal democratic government was not above freezing people's bank accounts when they disagreed with their point of views. So how do we stop these threats to our freedom before we lose those freedoms forever? Well, I believe that step one is to start talking about our right to digital freedom. What is digital freedom? Digital freedom consists of 4 basic freedoms. The first is freedom of speech. It's the right to talk to whoever you want about whatever you want. The second is freedom of information. It's our right to have access to information, to share that information however we want with whomever we want. The third is freedom of movement. It's our ability to go wherever we want to go without being tracked while we're doing it. And the fourth is freedom of money. It's our right to spend our money however we want without government interference. So today I want you to think about the world you want to see tomorrow. Is it one where government decides what we get to say, what information we get to share, where we can go, or how we get to spend our money? Or will it be a world where we get to have the digital freedom to make those decisions ourselves? 4Freedom is a movement to take back our digital freedom. I ask you to join that movement today and help make sure we still have our freedoms tomorrow. Thank you very much.
From my heart and from my hand, why don't people understand my intention?
I told you David Sinclair